Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Everyone, welcome back to the Ummahpreneur live podcast. And in this very special episode, I want to tell you guys, we had Brother Umar al-Dafrawi scheduled for today, who is an Egyptian MMA fighter, but unfortunately he couldn't attend due to a last-minute emergency. So guess what? We're going to give you a surprise episode today. And this is going to be with none other than my superstar social media manager, Yusuf Saad. Yusuf, assalamu alaikum, bro. Welcome to the podcast.
Walaikum salam. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, brother. So I'm really excited for people to meet you and get to know you a little bit. Yusuf has been part of the team at Ummahpreneur for over a year now. He's been honestly instrumental in our growth and our ability to bring you guys valuable content, engage with you across our socials. Many of the ideas that we actually have put in place have been thanks to his genius. So the reason why I wanted to bring one of my team members today, and honestly one of my partners, because that's what I consider them, is that I want to share with you guys a little bit of, inside look on not only entrepreneurship, but also topics that we don't often talk about, like freelancing, topics like building a team, and even share with you a little bit more about Ummahpreneur, what we're working on, where we plan to go, inshallah, and where we were before, so where we started. And I want to give you guys a little bit of background on why I'm doing this episode today. So before we dive in, so a lot of times when we think of, generating an online income, we think that the only solution or the only way to get there is by building a business. And of course, I've had this discussion with Yusuf many times, and the truth is that building a business is really, really difficult. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. Sometimes for a year or more, you're actually not making any money. You're putting in 12-hour days, you're grinding it out, you're trying to figure it out, and it's very difficult to start. Now, for a lot of people, they're really just looking for a way to generate an online income, live essentially a remote lifestyle, right? So be able to travel, be able to work from all over the world, be able to, essentially work on your own schedule and have all these benefits without necessarily going through all the trouble of building a business. Now, if this sounds like you, then freelancing is actually very much a great way to achieve those goals without having the burden of building an entire business from the ground up. And so we're going to talk about that on the podcast today. We're going to talk about what is freelancing exactly, why it's the best gateway to earning an online income when you're a beginner, and a few other topics. And the best place to start is I want Yusuf here with me today to share with you guys, if you can share with us, Yusuf, what motivated you initially to become a freelancer versus, seeking a traditional job in a 9-to-5?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to be honest, it wasn't planned. Like it wasn't that I knew the benefits of freelancing and I just decided that I wouldn't go for like a traditional job.
Mm-hmm.
It was just fate. So like I graduated from university like just a few years ago, like 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And as any fresh graduate, I just started looking for jobs, and I just came across the idea of freelancing, and I started like looking for jobs online. And to my luck, I ended up like getting a client, and then it just started rolling with me. Like I just started getting more clients, and it really is a different approach, because it just saved me, like it just helped me take a totally different road than what I had intended. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And you're to kind of share with everyone some background. So obviously you're located in Egypt, right? So each one of the members at Ummahpreneur is actually located in different countries. So we're a very global team right now. And I want to ask you, for someone that's in Egypt right now, what is it, when you compare, freelancing to like a 9-to-5, what is it that appeals to you? Because we have listeners that listen to this podcast that are from different countries, whether it's from Egypt, from Pakistan, India, and all over, and they're looking for those opportunities. And I'd love to share with them the possibilities of freelancing. So share that with me. What is it about freelancing that appealed to you, and why is it interesting for someone like yourself who is in Egypt?
Yeah. Here's what's like awesome about freelancing. Like freelancing essentially gives everyone an equal opportunity in the global market. So as someone in Egypt, I am limited by opportunities in Egypt physically. I can't work anywhere else, right? And like a few years ago, if I wanted to get a job in Canada, I would have to go to Canada.
Yeah.
If I was just limited to my opportunities here, but now I am equal to anyone anywhere. So my skills really dictate how far I can go. My skills dictate my salary, because I'm not bound to the average Egyptian salary. I can essentially make as much as anyone else makes, and this can make a huge difference in people who like in lives of people who are living in like developing countries, especially because it just gives you this opportunity to really prove yourself. All you need is your skill and language to communicate, and you have access to the global market, and that's amazing.
Definitely, 100%, bro. And I want to ask you because, freelancing is a great gateway to earning an online income. And for people who are listening to this and who are wondering, maybe they've been in a position where they have been working on their business for a while, or a business idea, and it's just not moving forward quick enough. And they really feel like, listen, I want to generate an online income. I want to do this as quick as possible. You've really been grinding it out. You've really been trying to build this business or whatever it is you're trying to do. And it's just, you can't really figure it out. I really do recommend that you look into freelancing as a possibility, because even for myself, if you really think about it, the first successful business that really allowed me to quit my job was a business where I provided a service, right? So I was offering Facebook ads as a service, and providing a service online, right, which is essentially what freelancing is. When you provide a service online, allows you to generate an income without necessarily having any startup costs, right? So, Yusuf, for yourself, were there any costs for yourself associated with freelancing, or actually, what were the costs that were associated with starting up as a freelancer? Were there any costs for you? What can people expect?
Yeah, like the cost was absolutely nothing, and it wasn't even experience. So I didn't need experience to start freelancing. I started with freelancing, and that's all I know. Like, I never had a traditional job. I never actually went to a 9 to 5. That's all I knew all of my life, like freelancing. So I didn't really need any previous experience, but I did have my education, and it wasn't that I was clueless about what I'm doing. I had I had my portfolio and my education to back me up, but I didn't have any solid experience there.
Got it. And so how did you approach that for someone that didn't have experience to go and actually land the job? What was your approach like?
Yeah, so essentially your approach would be really focused on how you can bring value, and you can also try to penetrate the market with a lower price. So instead of charging, like you would essentially like do your market research, and you would see like the position you want, and you would see what's the average there, and then you can essentially like drop your price a bit, so you can land your first job. And once you have this first job, and once you get this first client, and once you get a good review from this client, if you do a good job, if you have like the right mindset, if you have the right attitude, it's almost certain that you are going to get the job done, even if your technical skills are not amazing.
Yeah.
So if you have the right mindset, you're surely to succeed. And of course, like if you're lucky enough to get like a decent client who's communicative with you, then it really just boils down to that.
Yeah, definitely. And really, to kind of add to that, because when I was looking at hiring for this role, and you were the first person that I hired in Ummahpreneur, so you were actually the first person to join the team. Actually, no, sorry. So that's a mistake. There was Katami before, but he left before you joined, and he was more of a temporary role to help us set up our email marketing sequences. So it was for a specific task, and then he was done. But you were the first permanent role to actually join the team. So you were the one that was that I hired with plans to actually have as a long-term partner in the company. And when I was looking to fill that role, to give you guys some advice, if you're thinking about freelancing, just like Yusuf said here, you don't necessarily need experience, but more importantly, what you're going to need is the right mindset. And one thing that really, stood out to me when I was looking at potential candidates, and I went through your application as well to see kind of, what your credentials were. I remember very well that you didn't have experience at that point in time, but what you did have was the right attitude. And what you also did have that is more important, that I think freelancers should pay attention to a little bit more, is you had an interest in the mission and the vision of the company. And I think that's really important, because when companies are looking to hire, if they're looking to hire someone long-term, now there are, of course, the exception to the rule. There are the companies that just want to hire for a specific task. They just care if you can do your job really well, and that's it. And in that case, you would probably need some experience or some credentials. But for someone like myself who's looking to hire someone that is actually going to be a partner in the business and not just a contractor or freelancer, even though you might consider yourself a freelancer and I consider you a partner in the business, what I'm looking for is someone who aligns with that mission and vision. Because when I want to grow Ummahpreneur, I want someone to come join me and say, oh, what are some different ways that we can grow this, right? Oh, here's a new idea that we can implement. Here's something new that we should be doing that we're not necessarily doing. And the truth is, it's only someone who actually cares about where we're going that's going to do that. If you don't care about that, you're going to do your job, you're going to clock in, clock out, and it's done. But when you care about what we're trying to do here, which in this case is helping nurture Muslim entrepreneurship, you're going to be more interested in bringing those ideas and trying to actually achieve that mission. And that's something that stood out for me, is that you actually showed an interest in the purpose behind Ummahpreneur. And I think that's such important advice for freelancers who want to get started and who want to apply to different jobs or careers or companies. Look at what the company is doing, see if it aligns with what you want to do. And if it does, then show them that you're actually interested in what they're doing and you're really excited to be part of it. Would you agree, Yusuf?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think this is definitely like one of the perks of being a freelancer, is that you're able to pick who you want to work with, and you can really get picky with that if you're like, once you like get good enough.
Yeah.
So this is something that I always ask any client before like getting serious with them, is I always ask them about like basically their philosophy, where they want to go with this, like what they're offering. Like, this is really important, because if you actually align with these values, then you achieve something very important, which is you don't feel like this is work. And once you don't feel like this is work, you can actually put the time and effort in it just to give it your 100% without feeling drained. And I think this is incredibly important.
Yeah, definitely. Now, of course, for myself, I had a different approach, right? So I know very well that you, mashallah, are continuing to grow, and through our work together as well, I try really hard to help you grow in different directions, challenging you in different ways, including today, telling you to come on the podcast, right? So here's a new challenge for you. And I'm glad that you took me up on it. And so, there's all these different ways that you get to grow and you get to, improve your skills and refine yourself. And, we do talk a lot about entrepreneurship on this podcast, right? I mentioned it before, but one thing we don't talk about enough is, the possibilities of getting on the ground floor within a startup like Ummahpreneur and be part of a team that's building a business together. And that has its own appeal as well. So I want to know for you, like, what has that experience been like for you? Has it been rewarding? Has it been enjoyable? And you don't have to, sweet talk me because I'm here, actually. Pretend that I'm not here, but tell people honestly, do you feel like there's any perks in, actually joining like a startup and building it together with a team versus just building your own thing on your own? Do you think that it's been an enjoyable experience, or what has been your experience like for you?
Yeah, of course. It's really something that I've always wanted, and I'm really lucky to actually like be part of this. Being part of a startup just allows you to see everything that happens, and it allows you to actually see how business grows, and you don't really take any risks as well. So I'm not really losing anything, right?
Correct.
So you're the one who's taking all the risks, and I'm just learning, right?
Yeah.
And this really gives you the opportunity to just see everything and learn from whoever is running the business. So I'm learning a lot from Abby, because Abby has like way more experience than I do, and he's essentially giving me all of this experience because he needs me to be like at my best. So in order for the company to grow, so my growth becomes essential to the company's growth, and this is why Abby has to also mentor me in this way, and he has a drive to mentor me in this way, and this is really, really valuable.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And in the same vein, brother, because a lot of times I think the mindset required to succeed in freelancing is the same thing as the mindset required to succeed in entrepreneurship, or the mindset required to succeed in anything in life, really. And it's really the mindset where you are able to essentially acknowledge your shortcomings or your learning opportunities, and then be open to receiving coaching, and then to take action upon that to improve, and to actively seek what are the areas in your life where you are maybe not as best as you can be, and then trying actively to learn how to overcome, or how to fill those gaps. And I think for me, I do this actively as a business owner every single day, and you do this as well, and you have that attitude. And I think every person on the team, Ummahpreneur, one thing that I'm super grateful for is every person has that attitude, where whether I talk to you or to Saeed Babar or to Abdurrahman, who's our newest recruit as well, all of us have the same attitude and the same culture. And I think we'll talk about culture as well in terms of building a company in a second. But do you think it's important for people to have that attitude, that learning mindset, if they do want to succeed online?
Yeah, like 100%. Because if you're a freelancer, no one's holding you accountable. Like, of course, in some cases, like, for example, like you hold me accountable because like the type of relationship we have. But if you're a freelancer, in lots of cases, the client just wants to get work done. Like they just expect you to deliver something, and it's really up to you to like go above and beyond, and it's up to you to always improve on yourself and make sure that you're always growing, because this is your business. This is if like your growth like equals the growth of your income as well. So the more skills you have, the more you'll be able to like charge more and essentially grow in the freelancing field.
Yeah, completely agree.
Important, yeah.
100%, brother. And that's such an important skill to have, the skill of being able to be receptive to constructive criticism and to be receptive to feedback from others. It's so important, because you can only succeed in entrepreneurship if you don't have an ego, I think, or even as a freelancer, right? It's when you put your ego aside and you essentially can't operate from a perspective of, oh, I'm the best at this or I'm the best at that, but rather by putting aside your ego and understanding that, there are other people out there who know more than me in many things, and what can I learn from every person that I talk to. And I think one thing that you guys have probably noticed, and you guys have talked about as well and mentioned, is that in a lot of my, in my work, Ummahpreneur, one thing that I do with my team is that I include them on every single decision that we make in the company, right? So when we have our Friday meetings and we're talking about what are the next steps that we're going to take in terms of products or programs we're going to release in the company, or even if we're trying to think about, a new service that we're going to put out, or a new software that we're going to build, or here's a new platform that we could possibly tackle. I'm never isolating myself and thinking, oh, I'm better than my team, so I'm just going to go, I have more experience than my team, so I'm just going to go and make all these decisions on my own and give you guys tasks. But rather, I make it a point to include you in those decisions and essentially throughout my thinking process. And for me, this has been one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had, to be completely honest with you, because, for other entrepreneurs who are listening to this, who maybe have a team, there's so much value that every single person can bring to the table, based on their own unique life experiences, based on their own perspectives. And every time we have a meeting about something, whether I ask you something, Yusuf, or I'm asking something to Saeed or to someone else, every time you guys bring forth an idea, and I'm like, wow, I would never thought of it that way. I didn't think of it from this angle. And then to hear those different ideas has allowed me and has allowed us as a team and has allowed the company to exponentially, grow at an exponential rate. And we kind of look at our Ummahpreneur and we kind of think, we're still a small time, which we are. We're a very small startup. But I would say, like, if we compare where we started to where we are now, like it's a world of a difference, right? And the credit doesn't go to me, like zero, guys. Like this, I'm not some genius. The credit goes to Yusuf. The credit goes to Saeed. The credit goes to my team that come and bring their own skills and contribute. So yeah, man. Do you feel like for like entrepreneurs listening to this, for business owners listening to this, Yusuf, what advice do you have to them to give them when it comes to building a culture, building a team? I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, it's just like you said, like if I'm thinking how our meetings went before, like when it was just the two of us, and of course, like there were lots of ideas like going back and forth, and it was of course like amazing. And when Saeed came, it just became totally different. Like when three people are like bouncing ideas off each other, it just becomes like you just see the tremendous value in that. And I think you said this once, and it's really true, that the value the one person brings is not just like a value of one person. It feels like a lot more, because essentially, like, when I give you an idea and I put it out in the open, and then Saeed adds on it, and then you add on it, and then it just becomes something totally different. And combining all of these aspects, it just makes it just amazing. Like it just really amazing to see this like happening.
Definitely, alhamdulillah. And it's honestly exactly, which is when you combine, like a team makes up more than the whole. So what that means essentially, in like regular words, is that like when you're one person, you have that one, you have your own way of thinking, you have your own background, your own life experiences. That's all you can bring to the table. But for some reason, when you bring multiple people to the table, then together, when you work together, you achieve more, and you become more than the sum of your parts. Right, so we were 3 people, but we become more than the sum of our parts because of our experience and how they're combined. So it's a really interesting phenomenon, subhanAllah, that happens when people get together to work on something, and especially something in our case, which I really love, that is, inshallah, in line with our deen, and with, hopefully something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. Allahu a'lam, but we hope and we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with the work that we're trying to do and the mission we're trying to achieve. And so there's some barakah in that as well. So let's talk a little bit about how Ummahpreneur started and where we are now, and where we're going a little bit, to give people a little bit of background, maybe, a little bit of backstory on our startup, and maybe they can get inspired, they can learn a little bit. And I'm going to share with the audience a little bit about where we started. And then I want you to share with the audience as well, what were like the biggest changes that we've done since you've joined, and maybe people can learn from that and they can do the same changes in their business. So when we first started, I was on my own, of course, with Ummahpreneur. So it was just an idea that I had, and I was trying to build something out of nothing. And it's a very difficult thing to do when you're one person. So I essentially only had, we only had one program. Well, we still do only have one program, because honestly, just kind of like a side note, I don't know how companies can keep building like new programs every single week or month or a year. I mean, we're trying to, but when you're one person, if you're one person that's like, one coach or, one service provider, and you're trying to constantly churn out courses, it's really difficult to actually put out something that's of value, or something that you're constantly improving and making better, as well as keeping up with social media and serving your clients and everything else. So I really do wonder how these businesses work. But for me, I really could only handle one program. And to this day, we still have one program. And now we're kind of like working on finally the next thing that we're going to do, inshallah, which is going to be really exciting. But I had one program. I was only on Facebook. I didn't have any other social media platforms, because I just didn't have the time or the energy to, put that investment in those other social media platforms. And that's important for people who are listening to this, are just getting started in business. Sometimes you have to pick and choose your areas of focus. If you're one person, you're not necessarily going to be able to, create content on all social media platforms while building your program or your service, while serving your clients, while marketing. It's just too much. You're going to go crazy. So I only had Facebook. I had one program. We had a small Facebook group, and that was pretty much my areas of focus. And I kind of built that up until I was making just enough to be able to say, all right, I can finally hire my first person. And Yusuf, that was it. So Yusuf, share with me, bro, what were the biggest transformations that we did when you joined? Maybe some people can get inspired, because, where I started and where we are now is night and day. So share with us some of those milestones, or maybe what you've brought in terms of ideas to inspire some others, inshallah.
Yeah. Like thinking back, of course, like lots of things changed. And I think it's mostly about really just optimizing like the content that we're putting out, like really optimizing the content and focusing on bringing value to people. Like all of this, like we spend most of our time putting out free content to provide value, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is extremely important to do. Like it's really.
Why do you think it's so important for companies to put out free content? Like what benefit does that have for a company like ours?
Yeah, essentially it's like bringing value. Really, like it really translates to growth in the end. So So if you're focusing on bringing value, like this is what really happened with us. Like we were really focused on bringing value to people, and alhamdulillah, like that ended up with us really blowing up on social media, and that was great. And of course that also affected, like really made a huge impact on business.
Mm-hmm.
But our focus wasn't really business, so we didn't really optimizing the business as much as we were optimizing the content. But the content had this effect on business, and I think it's amazing when you think about it like that. And of course, also like sincerely wanting to provide people with value just makes it a lot easier for you to work. If you really want to bring value to people, and if you're creating this content and you know that someone might actually benefit from this, and instead of just wanting to sell them something, it just makes it a lot easier for you to put in the work and actually put the effort to do that if you sincerely have this intention.
Intention is so huge in content, right? And it's interesting that you say that, because we spent so much time refining it. And of course, we went from just being on Facebook to then being on Instagram, and then being on LinkedIn, and then eventually being on YouTube, and also now TikTok. So guys, follow us on all platforms, #Ummahpreneur. Check us out, follow us, share our content, guys. Help us go viral, all right? We're working really hard here all day, all night. We're working so hard for you guys to put out this content. If you listen to this podcast and you're not following us on social media, I don't know what you're doing right now, but you should be putting out your phone. You should be going on your favorite platform, search for Ummahpreneur, follow us, and share our most recent posts, guys. Share and send me a DM and tell me that I'm doing this because I'm listening to your podcast, and I'm gonna give you a little something. I don't know what I'm gonna give you yet, but I'll give you a little something. We'll see. It could be a call, it could be something else. But yeah, I mean, so we've done that, Yusuf. And now what's the next step for us? I mean, now that we've covered all social media platforms, what has been our next area of focus? Right.
Yeah, I think it's like I think also what we really focused on is which is part of optimizing the content, is also getting to know our audience. So I think we spend so much time doing that. We spend like we still are doing that. Like we're always making making research, like looking at what people like, so we can give them more of it. Really focusing on what do people want, and instead of just putting out content without actually like just for the sake of it. And this resulted in always optimizing our content. Like we do this on regular basis. We're always thinking, like we should put this out, we shouldn't put this out. And really the process, it's more about the process, because we know that we never really get to the end of it, because it's just always going to be a work in progress. But I think it's incredibly important to always think about what the audience want.
100%, bro. And I love that you brought that up, Yusuf. See, guys, this is why Yusuf is part of my team. I'm telling you guys, I only work with rock stars. Why? I don't know. We have a culture like that at Ummahpreneur, but you know what? We worked really hard to build it. And it's not only thanks to me, it's thanks to every person that joined. And to be honest with you, I mean, identity research, market research, understanding your customer avatar. We have an ideal customer in our minds, right? What's her name, Yusuf? What's her name?
It's Sophia.
Sophia, yes. So Sophia Al-Majid is our customer avatar in Ummahpreneur. We know exactly everything about her life. We know her marital status, how many children she has, what she does for work. We know what her goals are, what her aspirations are, what her fears are, what are her obstacles, what are the things she believes that might not be true. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to help guide Sophia through our content towards, the possibilities and the benefits of entrepreneurship, and helping her get started within that world. And so that's kind of like the angle that we approach it from. And it's helped us tremendously, because now we get to look at our content sometimes. And when we didn't have that, we would just say, oh, this is cool. This is related to entrepreneurship, or this is not cool. It's not really related. But now we can look at this and we can say, oh, you know what? Even though this is related to entrepreneurship, I don't think this actually relates to Sophia that much, because it's for someone who is at this stage, or maybe someone who it doesn't necessarily fit our target customer right now, or our ideal customer avatar. So even though it is within our sphere, it's not something that we should be talking about. And I think that's made a big difference, because it allows you to really pinpoint what you should be talking about. And that has allowed us to really put out better content that people engage with more. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. And let's share with people a little bit of a sneak peek. Since we're getting close to wrapping up here, inshallah. It's going to be a shorter episode, but I just want to give you guys some value. Yusuf was great. He was kind enough and graceful enough to join me today on this podcast on a last-minute request, because our planned guest couldn't make it, mashallah. And I want to really just express my gratitude to Yusuf for doing that. Let's share with people a little bit of a sneak peek on what we're possibly working on. So I don't want to share any secrets. But Yusuf, for us, let me approach it from this angle, because I don't want you to reveal what we're working on just yet. Let's share with people when it became time to think about our next product or service that we're going to put out. What is it specifically what is the question that we wanted to answer, or what was our goal in terms of figuring out what to create? Because a lot of people might think, oh, I already have courses, so I think I'm just going to keep creating courses. I already have a service, I'm going to keep doing services. We approached it a bit from a different angle. We're not going to reveal too much information yet until it's finalized. But what was the angle that we took to think of what's the next thing we want to build for the Muslim community, and what can people kind of expect? A little teaser. I know I'm making this challenging, but
yeah,
go for it.
So I think we can really sum it up in one sentence, which is nurturing Muslim entrepreneurship, right? So this really encompasses. This is not just being like a service provider, is not just providing courses. This is really about showing Muslims the value of entrepreneurship and really making it easy for them in all of the aspects of entrepreneurship. So all of the aspects, just make it easier for Muslims to be entrepreneurs, and really raising awareness on how they can actually like take charge of their income, and how they can take charge and actually do something on their own, and we just want to guide them there.
100%, bro. I think that was the best description I could have ever gave for that. Yusuf, do you have any advice for people who are listening to this, who are aspiring freelancers and who wish, they listen to this and they're like, what, I want to make some income online. Is there any tips or advice we can give them, inshallah, before we wrap up today?
Yeah. So either if you're a freelancer, or you're like an aspiring entrepreneur, like you really want to be like an entrepreneur and you're working a 9-to-5 right now, I think it's really important to see the similarities between freelancing and like entrepreneurship. Because essentially being a freelancer is really like being a business owner. 100%. It's just providing a business. So if you want to provide any business, let's say, for example, graphic design, and you really want to have your own business revolving around graphic design, but what you can essentially do is just go and start building your, like, even if you don't have any experience, you can start growing your technical skills, just like taking courses, building your portfolio with these courses, showing your skills, and then you would start applying for jobs as a freelancer. Like you can go to the freelance platforms and you can apply for jobs as a freelancer. And once you have enough clients, you can actually start to scale your business by either like outsourcing. So you can just outsource people to do your work, or help you with the work you're doing, and essentially like delegate until you're making passive income. So that's the next step for like you would either raise your rates or like grow this way, like scale. And there is just so much potential there, and there is the transition is really simple. So once you're a good enough freelancer and you're making enough money, you can actually start delegating your work and like heading toward a business side instead of just being a freelancer, having your own agency.
I love that, mashallah. Well, that's some really great advice. I love all the faces there that you've mentioned for our audience to follow. So guys, if you got benefit out of this episode, make sure to leave a like, a subscribe, and comment. And Yusuf, what should we tell people about our discovery call at Ummahpreneur? What should they know about the discovery call that we offer for free? What should they take us up on this? Should they take us up on this, Yusuf?
Yeah. Like I'm getting this discovery call every day.
This discovery call, bro. Why do you think aspiring entrepreneurs should hop on a call with our team? Why is it important for them to do that?
It's always better to put your ideas out in the open and just like discover the opportunities that you don't necessarily know. So just by getting on this call, you would really get to talk about what you want, and essentially we can like tell you how like the roadway to like, and guide you to how you can actually reach this, and how we can help you reach your goals.
Inshallah, definitely. And that's what we're going to do, guys. And so you heard Yusuf. It's not me who said it this time. All right. So I'm just the listener here, just like all of you listening to this episode. So if you if you're interested in booking a call with us, you're interested in starting your own business, or you want to take your own business to the next level, if you already have one, you can book a call with us for free at ummahpreneur.com/call. So it's ummahpreneur.com/call. We'll speak to you to understand what your goals are and how we can help you, inshallah. So make sure to do that if you are interested in getting our help or mentorship in your journey. And I really do hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe and rate this podcast to show your support. You can follow us on your favorite social media platform as well by searching Ummahpreneur. And Yusuf, thank you so much for joining me today, brother. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm sure lots of people got amazing value. So thank you for that. Jazakallah khair.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much, brother. Take care, guys. We'll see you in the next episode next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.